The Milwaukee Bucks are no strangers to NBA rivalries, and they have certainly had their fair share of it over the years, with each one leaving a unique mark on the franchise's colorful history. Buckle up, as in this video, we'll take a look at the 5 main rivals of the Bucks and explore the battles that shaped the rivalry of the NBA franchise. In 2019, the Bucks, led by Giannis Antetokounmpo, were on the brink of an NBA Finals showdown with the Golden State Warriors. But all the hopes of that season would come crashing down during the Eastern Conference Finals, when the Bucks faced off against the Toronto Raptors. They were pretty much the favorites with a high-flying Giannis, the Greek Freak, but the Raptors ruptured their dreams. Kawhi Leonard and his crew put on a masterclass, rattling off 4 straight wins after the Bucks took a commanding 2-0 lead in the Eastern Conference Finals, which sent heartbreaks in Milwaukee and jubilation in Toronto. Leonard continued his postseason brilliance that season, finishing with 27 points, 17 rebounds, and 7 assists to go along with his elite defense on Giannis Antetokounmpo. Fred VanVleet, meanwhile, stepped up off the bench and chipped in 14 points thanks to 4 more 3-pointers. With the Eastern Conference Finals victory over the Milwaukee Bucks, the Toronto Raptors advanced onto the NBA Finals for the first time in franchise history. This was certainly a painful defeat for the Bucks, more so that it happened in the second time in as many years, with the Raptors coming on top in the 2017 playoffs final with a 3-2 series victory. The Raptors have to be the Bucks' biggest contemporary rivals at the moment, mostly stemming from a past conference finals matchup and the two teams' current pursuit for dominance in the post-LeBron James Eastern Conference. The Bucks and Raptors portend to have a very entertaining and intense rivalry. Despite Leonard leaving Toronto for the Los Angeles Clippers, the Raptors are well equipped for the near future with budding star forward Pascal Siakam, still growing into his potential. Unlike the modern-day rivalry with the Raptors, the Bucks have a history with the Los Angeles Lakers. The Bucks and the Lakers have one huge common player in their shared histories: NBA all-time career leading scorer Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Yes, the man once known as Lou Alcindor brought glory to Milwaukee, securing their first and one of 2 championships in their history under his expert leadership, but he spent the majority of his career in purple and gold, winning 5 more titles alongside Magic Johnson and the Lakers. Going back to the early days of the NBA, the Bucks-Lakers rivalry was a big shot. The 70s saw the Bucks and Lakers collide multiple times in the playoffs. Milwaukee's victory over the Lakers in the 1971 Western Conference Finals was a monumental step towards their championship dream that season. The Lakers had their turn in '72, beating the Bucks in the playoffs, and the Bucks tasted victory again in '74. A seesaw of epic proportions, etching this rivalry into the books of history. Moving on now to the Celtics, and they certainly have their own shared history with the Bucks. These two would go head-to-head during the NBA Finals in the 1970s, as the Kareem-led Bucks would fall to the Cowens-Havlicek-led Celtics in 1974. The rivalry took headlines again in the 1980s, as the Bucks became the one and only team to sweep the Celtics during the Bird era. In 1983, the Celtics were a strong team, 1 season removed from an NBA title. Looking to return to the finals, the Boston Celtics would shock everyone as they played poorly and were beaten by the Bucks in 4 games during the Eastern Conference semifinals. The teams would again meet in 1986 and 1987, and the Celtics would avenge their poor performance in 1983 by returning the favor and sweeping the Bucks. 2 series sweeps by both teams set up the best matchup between the 2 teams in 1987. The Bucks were looking to bounce back from their loss in 4 games at the conference finals a year earlier, forcing 7 games on the hobbling Celtics. Boston looked to be behind the 8 ball and vulnerable as the game went to the closing minutes of the deciding contest. Trailing the Bucks by 8 points with 4 minutes remaining in the competition, Larry Bird and Dennis Johnson, 2 of the most clutch players in Celtics history, would will Boston to a comeback victory, setting up one of the greatest Eastern Conference matchups of the 80s. Fast forward to recent years, and the rivalry got a fresh lease of life when they crossed paths again in the 2018-19 playoffs. In the conference semifinals, the Celtics lost to the Bucks in 5 games. When you think of the current Sixers and Bucks rivalry, it obviously revolves around Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the process versus the Greek Freak, Godzilla versus King Kong. But the history is very far from that. The Philadelphia 76ers are definitely a recurring chapter in the Bucks' playoff journey. The team from Philly had been the Bucks' most frequent postseason opponent in the franchise history. They've locked horns in 9 series and a staggering 49 playoff games, spanning 3 decades. The rivalry might have cooled off a bit, but the echoes of past clashes still linger. In the history of the Sixers-Bucks rivalry, they've faced off 221 times, with the Bucks winning 117 games and the Sixers winning 104. Notable scoring instances include the Sixers putting up 143 points in March 1969, while the Bucks scored 142 points just 2 years later. Key players like Hal Greer, Billy Cunningham, Chet Walker, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Oscar Robertson stood out with high-scoring performances. The Sixers and Bucks also met in the latter's first playoff series in franchise history back in 1970, with Milwaukee winning in 5 games in the first round before succumbing to eventual first-time champion New York Knicks. In total, these teams have met a staggering 49 times in the playoffs, with the Sixers leading at 29 wins. In 9 playoff series since 1970, the Sixers have won 6. The 80s saw significant postseason matchups between the teams, notably in the Eastern Conference semifinals of 1981, where Julius Erving and Marcus Johnson had standout performances. The Sixers won in 7 games but lost to the eventual champions, the Boston Celtics, in the conference finals. Both sides met in a high-stakes moment during the 2001 postseason, where star point guard Allen Iverson took down 1996 NBA draft classmate Ray Allen's Milwaukee team in the conference finals. That incredible series went the distance, with Iverson and the Sixers narrowly taking down Allen, Glenn Robinson, and the Bucks. While the Bulls may not have engaged the Bucks as frequently in postseason battles as the Sixers, the Bulls wield a strategic advantage due to their close geographical proximity and shared divisional status with the Bucks. This setup ensures that the two teams meet on the court a substantial 4 times every year, igniting intense competition. Back then, the Bulls-Bucks rivalry was a high point of the NBA, up until Magic Johnson and Larry Bird reignited the Boston-Los Angeles beef. The game was much more physical back then, leading to altercations and emotional outbursts. The games were like wars. Although the Bulls vs. Bucks modern era hasn't been as physical, but the rivalry is still there. They lost the contender flair once their generational talents left. Neither was able to make any strides until the 2010s, but their paths finally crossed in 2015 when they met in the playoffs with the Bulls coming out on top. Memories of the 2015 playoffs still sting, as the Bucks bowed out just in the first round, which was a bitter pill to swallow. But their history swings both ways. The Bucks had their moments of triumph in 74 and 85 against their Midwestern rivals. From Michael Jordan's era to Derrick Rose's heroics, the Bucks and Bulls have shared exhilarating highs and also soul-crushing lows. The annoying neighbor rival is what it's called, and attending a Bucks-Bulls game at the Bradley Center, one would definitely experience a not-so-friendly atmosphere. So, there you have it, a trip through the Milwaukee Bucks' riveting rivalries. Who do you think was the best rival?